All right, what's up, boys and girls? This is Kyle from cleanenergymarketing.com. One of my last videos was 9 tips. It's actually still on my whiteboard. 9 tips on how to get better referrals. And this video is a second part to that one. So if you haven't watched that first one, make sure you go ahead and check it out. But this is actually giving you kind of the outline and the actual script that takes a lot of those tips and kind of implements them effectively. And obviously, you can adjust the script however you want, and there's different ways that you go about it. But I'm just going to talk about like specific things and the reasons why we do things, the reasons why we phrase things a certain way. So first up, remember, just as important as knowing what to say is knowing when to say it. So remember that the trigger when we're going to ask for referrals is when we hear the words "thank you," when they're giving us gratitude, when they're giving us referrals. So just remember that's the trigger for us to begin this conversation. So when we're going in for referrals, like we want to start with a small micro commitment. And so once again, they're showing us gratitude. They're willing to do us a favor, but we have to get their permission to ask for a favor. And so what we do is we say, "Hey, could you do me a small favor?" Super easy, super simple. They're going to say yes. They're going to say it depends. They're not going to say, very rarely will they say no. But then no matter what they say, we're going to say, okay, great. Would you happen to know a single person just like you who might be interested in dot dot dot, fill in the blank. And so this is where we're getting into the specific ask. So remember, we're starting small, asking for a small favor, and then we're being specific with what it is that we're looking for. And the way that this sentence is crafted actually does a handful of good things. Would you happen to know that when we phrase things like that, it's almost like a challenge to the person that we're talking to. Like, would you happen to know? And they're really going to think hard. They're going to try to think of a person that matches the description. The second part, a single person. Notice we're not asking for 5, we're not asking for 3, we're asking for 1. Like, do you know just one person who, just like you, might be interested in, and then we tell them about the benefit. And so the just like you phrase is super important because it's a little bit of flattery. It's a little compliment. It's kind of like we're buttering up a little bit just because we're asking them for something. And so what we're saying is, hey man, you're awesome. We're looking for more people that are just like you. Do you know anybody? And then who might be interested in, and then we fill in our benefit. So we don't necessarily say the product. So if we were in solar, we don't say someone who might be interested in going solar. We'd probably try to focus it more on someone who might be interested in saving boatloads of money on their monthly electric bills. Like that's a pretty powerful benefit, and that's the main reason that people are going towards that. And no matter what your industry is, you can use the same structure and just make sure that you're tying it to your benefit rather than the actual product. And then when we're asking this, like I said, we're asking for one single person. Our goal is to get that person's name. So we're hoping to get their name. And then even after we get their name though, what we got to do at this point is we got to alleviate some of the pressure. We just ask them like, hey, we're looking for referrals. But then we're gonna take a step back and say like, oh no, that's great. I don't need their details right now, but when is the next time that you're gonna see that person? And they're going to give us a day. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month, whatever it is. At that point, we're going to get a commitment from them that they'll just kind of bring up the subject. And so the next part over here, when we're getting the commitment, is how would you feel if next time you see them, you share some information about your experience of doing business with me and my company, and seeing if they would be open-minded to having a call and seeing if we can do something similar for them. That's basically it. All we're saying is like, hey, how would you feel if about sharing information about your experience with us and seeing if they would be open to having a conversation. And so with this, the way we're structuring it, it's kind of a complicated ask. But what we're doing is very rarely will people ever say no to that. I mean, because all we're saying is, hey, I mean, great. Can you just tell them about your experience with us and then get back to us and see if they might be open to it. And so it's a very easy ask, but it's something that we're able to get them to commit to. And then so once they answer that, they're going to say, yeah, sure, that's no problem at all. We're going to say, great. So, and then what we're going to do after we've gotten them to commit is we're going to schedule our next action. So depending on whenever they said that they were going to speak with their friend, we want to schedule a follow-up that's right after that meeting. And so we would say, great. So since you plan to speak with him next Wednesday or next Friday or next month on the second, I'm going to plan on following up with you right after that. And then we're going to give them, then we kind of just use our either or questions to get a firm time booked. So in this situation, we say, great. So since you plan to speak with him next Wednesday, I will plan on following up with you after. What day works best, Thursday or Friday? Great. In the more free in the morning or the afternoon? Awesome. Can you do 2 p.m. in the afternoon? Great. So I'll plan on following up with you on Friday at 2 p.m. And so with that, what we're doing is we're getting a commitment, obviously, that they're going to talk to their person. And then because we have the meeting scheduled, they're much more likely to follow through with it. And then when we follow up with them, super important, we follow up at the time that we said. And when we have it scheduled like this, it's an easy way for us to hold them accountable without feeling like we're pressuring them. And so, we have to be careful with the way that we word it. But when we do follow up with that call after they supposedly have to hopefully talk to their friend, we would say, hey, client name, this is Kyle, just phoning as promised. So you can say just phoning as promised. You can say just, I like phoning as promised because you're reminding them that you promised to have this conversation. And then what they're probably going to do is they're going to have a little bit of even thankfulness and say, oh, hey, yeah, thanks, Kyle. And even if they aren't ready for the conversation there, that just reminds them that this is just something that you both had already agreed to. And so it's not like a cold call that in the dark that you're not hassling them. It's just something that you both have already agreed. And then we say, I know when we spoke last week, you said that you were going to speak to your friend about your experience of doing business with me. I'm guessing that you haven't found the time to talk to him yet. And what that does is it basically reminds them of what they have committed to. It kind of gently nudges them and says, hey, so like, just remember, like, I'm checking in about this. But then the second part, which says, I'm guessing that you haven't found the time to talk to him yet. And so what that does is kind of absolves them of blame. And so when we phrase it that way, they're either going to say, oh, actually, no, I did talk to him, but this, or, I didn't get the chance to talk to him the other day like I had hoped. I'm expecting to talk to him next Thursday. But no matter what we're doing is we're holding them accountable, but we're not placing any pressure, and we're definitely not acting with desperation. So these are the kind of steps and the parts of the script that some of my favorite phrases that I would use when I'm asking for a referral. And just to recap one more time, we listen for thanks and gratitude, and that's when we ask. We get small micro commitment, as simple as saying, could you do me a small favor? Then we're going to specifically ask what we're looking for, get a commitment, schedule our next action, and follow up with the customer. And using these scripts is a pretty simple way of controlling the conversation, hopefully getting referrals from our clients, not only referrals, but getting great referrals from our clients without putting them in a position where they feel like they're being pressured into doing something or that they don't want to do. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this script. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.